second. Hello. Make sure volume. Volume. Make sure the purpose bulletin goes out. There we go. Hello. Yes. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. What's up, David? What's up, Katana? What's up, Dimitri? How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Just like yesterday, just like yesterday, start with the Aloha packet first. So start with the Aloha packet first. Um, Again, start with the Aloha packet first, then follow with the play ball packet, and then winding it up with the yard sale packet. So if you don't have one, if you want to go off of something else, just know that they're going to correlate to the time frame. I'm going to split it up into three separate streams. Um, and just go from there. All right. So what's up, Nick? How you doing? What's up, Nick? Me too. I'm tired as well. Let's see here. That's sure we're all set up. We're all set up, ready to go. Oh, it's almost spring break, right? Goodness. Crazy, crazy, crazy world. Crazy world like we've been talking about here these few times. Like I said, things get extended to May 1st, and it's like, you know, I don't know about life in general sometimes when it comes to things going on in this world. My goodness, it's crazy. Finally catching my reference there, huh? Let me change the color. All right, cool. I'll do that. Um, so we are going to get started, and we're going to get started. Try to do. Computer's going a little slow here, just a little slow. So I want to start on this shark quiz. The shark quiz. Woo, who, woo, diddly who, right? Woo, diddly who. So, with this shark quiz here, or shark quiz, or however you want to call it, all this is doing here. So, all this is doing is we're talking about dealing with the. There, it's just running a little slow. I'm like, why is this not right for me? Dealing with least common multiple. So least common multiple goes a lot with the goes a lot with the goes back with like the adding and subtracting fractions. Understanding least common multiple is something to where knowing that concept will help you to add fractions, as we'll kind of talk about here, with a little bit more difficult of numbers than what you have down here. I will totally admit these numbers that you see down here, when it comes to finding least common multiple, it's very simple. They're very, very simple. But knowing how to find least common multiple is something to where, like I said, you can. I'll show you here. I'll show you here in a minute. So let's get started. I'm going to try to space my screen so I don't have to scroll back and forth. Oh, this is not too good. All right, there we go. There we go. Let's see here. Figure this thing out. So least common multiple. Least common multiple is the smallest positive integer that is divisible by both of the numbers. What the heck do I mean? What the heck do I mean? Well, let's look here. Let's look. Least common multiple definition. Least common multiple definition. So if you look at this, least common multiple, as it takes forever to come up here, the smallest positive number that is a multiple of two or more numbers. So we'll talk about the example here in a second, but we'll get into this. Like I said, least common multiple, the smallest positive number that is multiple of two or more numbers. So what does that mean? Because obviously that can mean many different things. So let me change the color here. So let's start with one that'll make a little bit of sense here. So let's go with right at the top with A. So what's the least common multiple of one and 5? The proper way of doing this is listing your prime factors of each number. Now here's the good part. Prime factors of one are, well, 1, and the prime factors of 5 are 1 and 5. So what does this mean? Well, the next part you're doing with this when it comes to finding the least common multiple is you need to multiply each each you're going to look here and you're going to say, well, what is the greatest amount of times you see 1 occur in both numbers? Well, I see 1 occur once in each number, and I see 5 occur once as well. This will make sense. This will make sense in a second. So, with that being said, 1 occurs once and 5 occurs once. Take the greatest number of times each factor occurs in each number. So 1 occurs once, it occurs once in numbers, and then 5 occurs once. So 1 times 5 is, well, 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Your least common multiple of 1 and 5 is 5. It's 5 on this. Your least common multiple is 5. So down in your little riddle that you have right here, you should have an A written right there. So let's continue. Let me get off of this stuff here. So next, you say, well, what is the least common multiple of 2 and 3? So you look and you say, well, 2 and 3, least common multiple of 2 and 3. Well, what are the prime factors of 2? Prime factors of 2 are 1 and 2. The prime factors of 3 are 1 and 3. So you take a look at both numbers and you say, well, what's the greatest number of times you see these prime factors occur? You see 1 occur once. You see 2 occur once. And again, you see the 1 occur once over here. So the 3 occurs once. 1 times 2 times 3 is going to be 6. 6. And that is your least common multiple of 2 and 3. So when you look down into your little riddle, you can put the D right there. Okay. Just going to kind of try to roll through this kind of hopefully as quick as possible, but just to kind of reiterate what least common multiple is. So least common multiple, 3 and 9. So 3 and 9. I have 3 and 9. So the prime factors of 3. So the prime factors of 3 are 1 and 3. And for 9, it's 1 and 3. But rewind. My fault. So with 9, you have to look at this and say, well, take your 3 and say, well, 3 times what gives us 9? 3 times 3 will give us 9 on this. You'll kind of figure out here as we kind of go along that we usually will drop the 1 when it comes to doing the prime factorization, because 1 is usually just kind of itself. With this, we usually will drop this when it comes to listing all of our prime factors. We know that 1 is 1. We know that 1 is, 1 is 1. 1, can be multiplied and all that kind of good stuff. So if we take a look here and we say, now 3 occurs, what is the greatest number of times 3 occurs in one of our numbers? Well, 3 occurs twice when it comes to looking at the 9. So 3 times 3 is 9. Your least common multiple of 3 and 9 is going to be 9. It's going to be a bad looking 9, but that's a 9. But that is a 9 there. So let's see. Let's get this off here. So again, least common multiple, change of color here, least common multiple of 1 and 11. So 1 and 11, 1 and 11. Well, the only factor of 1 is, 1. And the factors of 11, 1 and 11. This is kind of self-explanatory here, guys. How many times does 1 occur? The greatest number of times 1 occurs is, 1. And then you take it times your 11, which will make it 11. So with the 9, let's put the, and let's put the F down here, right? Hopefully this is making sense so far. It's kind of rolling through this. You look at 16 and 2, 16 and 2, 16 and 2. Your prime factors. This is that time we'll just kind of say, well, 2 is a prime factor of 2. 16. Well, what is one of your prime factors here? What is one of your prime factors? Well, it's 2. And you say, well, 2 times what gives you 16? 2 times 8 will give you 16. But can 8 be broken down more? Yes, it can. What can go into 8? What can go into 8 would be 2, 2 and 4. Can 4 be broken down? Yes, it can. So you break down 4 into 2 times 2, which is going to leave you with, well, what's the greatest number of times you see the factor of 2? Well, you see it once, twice, 3 times, and 4 times. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. You do that, you'll find out that that's going to give you 16. 16. And then when you find your 16, if I can find it down here, there it is. H should go right there. Hopefully this is kind of making a little bit of sense. Like I said, the numbers are relatively simple for the most part, but again, it's good to know this. It's good to know this, especially with adding fractions. Let's change it up here. 17 and 1, I'm not going to bore you here. 17 and 1 is purely going to be 17. It's 17. 1 can go into 17 times. So 17 should be your answer for that. It should be an N right there, N right there. Okay, and then the least common multiple of 13 and 1. How many times can 1 go into 13? Well, 13 times. 13 times. I got a lot of garble on this, but 13 should be an O there. Let's find our other one. And then, so least common multiple of 18 and 3. Here's kind of like the tip with this, is if you see two numbers like 18 and 3, think to yourself first, well, can the smaller number here, can it be divided evenly into that bigger number? If it can, then you know your least common multiple will be that bigger number. Can 18 be divided by 3 evenly? And if that's the case, you know that, yes, well, yeah, it can be divided 6 times. That's another way of finding least common multiple in kind of a roundabout way. You have numbers like these that you see, like 18 and 3, 14 and 2, 1 and 7, 2 and 8. Like, you can look at this and you can say, well, like I can go and say, well, can that smaller number be divided into that bigger number evenly? That's a way for you to kind of figure out that least common multiple. So let me get the garble off of here. We know that 3 We know that 3 can go into 18 evenly, so you know that your least common multiple is not 6, not 6. Done. Your least common multiple is 18. 18. I think you can kind of start seeing anybody who's watched Wheel of Fortune or anything of that sense. Be able to see it. So look at 14 and 2. Can the number 2, so can the number 2 go into 14 evenly? So can the number 2 go into 14 evenly? The answer is yes. Is 14 a multiple of 2? Yes, 2 can go into 14 7 times. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So your least common multiple is going to be 14. So 14 here. The least common multiple of 3 and 5. Your prime factors 3 and 5. I'm gonna hold out the 1 and say, well, your prime factor of 3 is 3. Your prime factor of 5 is 5. Multiply the 2 together, will give you 15. It's 15. T. Okay, almost there. Almost there. So let's get rid of some of this and try to finish this up. So least common multiple, I'm repeating myself, 1 and 7. Least common multiple of 1 and 7. How many times can 1 go into 7 evenly? The answer is yes. So your least common multiple of 1 and 7 is 7. Okay. And then your least common multiple of 2 and 5. So 2 and 5. Prime factor of 2 is 2. Your prime factor of 5 is 5. Remember, prime factor is a number that can only be divided by the number 1 and itself. 2 can only be divided evenly by 1 and 2. 5 can only be divided by 1 and 5. So 5 is 10. 10. I think I missed it. 15 there. There we go. 20. There we go. 20. Yeah. Let's say, I'm like, what am I doing? And finally on this one, finally, okay, some of this off of here. Yes, you could solve the riddle of how many teeth can a shark grow in its lifetime. Yes. Last one, 8 and 2, 8 and 2, 8 and 2. Can the number 2 be divided evenly into 8? The answer is yes. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So your least common multiple of 8 and 2 is 8. So the answer to this awesome riddle of how many teeth can a shark grow in its lifetime? 24,000. 24,000. Yay. But that is least common multiple in a nutshell there. Those are some different numbers when it comes to this. But like the reason we do this, hopefully you guys have this. Those of you following along with me. There you go, Nick. Yeah, 24,000. There you go. Let me clear this screen. And I'm going to kind of go off to the side here for a minute. And go off to the side. The reason we do that, if I were to say, well, find the least common multiple of 3, 9, and 21. So if you had like 3, 9, and 21, well, your prime factor of 3 is 3. Prime factors of 9, well, 3 goes into 9 evenly. 3 is a prime number, so that would be 3 times 3 gives you 9. So when it, get the branch there, sorry, little branch. And then for 21, you got to find what's the a prime number that can be divided into 21 evenly. Well, if you go through your numbers, you know that 3 can be divided into 21 evenly. How many times can 3 go into 21 evenly? Well, that is 7 times. So 7 times. And you say to yourself, well, when you look at the number 3, or you look at the number 9, or you look at the number 21, I see two numbers. I see 3 and I see 7. I see 3 and I see 7. So out of these three numbers, what is the greatest amount of times you see 3 occur? You see 3 occur twice here. So when we're trying to find our least common multiple, we know that it's going to be 3 times 3. And then the greatest amount of times we see the number 7 is going to be once. It's going to be once. So 3 times 3 times 7. And so if you do this within a calculator, you do it in your head, however you're going to do it, 3 times 3 times 7 is 63. 63 is your least common multiple. Okay, I mean, I hope that kind of makes a little bit of sense. I'll do it a couple more times here. I know we're at about 821, but when it comes to that, though, this helps with fractions big time on this. So let's try one more here. Do another one. So if we were to say, let me change this up here, change the color. So say we had the numbers 30 and we had the number 45. We got to say to ourselves, we got to go, okay, what's the least common multiple of 30 and 45? It's like saying, you need to know this if it comes to, like, you have a question, if you ever saw a question saying, well, let's add 7/30ths plus 1/45th. Like, that's when you have to be able to use least common multiple. You gotta say, for those of you doing before we all departed there for however long it's going to be. When it comes to this, if you remember me going over these with the mixed number on the backboard and all that kind of good stuff, it's interesting things because you got to say, well, let's find the least common multiple. Remember, I was going through this and saying, well, you got to find the same denominator, for both fractions here. So let's go back to, so let's remember 7/30ths and 1/45th. So we're going to add those when we're done. Remember, we have those two numbers, 7/30ths and 1/45th. I wrote it down myself here. So we have to do the prime, we have to list the prime factors of 30 first. Think of the lowest prime number that can be divided into 30 evenly. The lowest prime number that can be divided into 30 evenly is the number 2. So is the number 2. 2 can go into 30 how many times? 2 can go into 30 15 times. So 2 times 15. Well, can 15, 2 can't be 2, I'm sorry, 2 cannot be broken down anymore. Can you say, well, can I break down 15 into any more prime factors? Does 15 have any more prime factors than this? And the answer is yes. Can 2 be divided into it evenly? No. Can 3 be divided into it evenly? Yes. 3 goes into 15 how many times? That's 5. So you have your prime factorization of 30 as being 2 times 3 times 5. Can we break that down any more? The answer to that is no. So your prime factorization of 30 is 2 times 3 times 5. Let's move over. So then now let's move over to 45. 45, you start off and do the same thing. The lowest prime number that you can figure, start off with 2. Always start off with 2. Can 2 go into 45 evenly? The answer is no. Can 3 go into 45 evenly? Can 3 go into 45 evenly? The answer is yes. 3 times what is 45? 3 times 15. 15 times 3 is 45. And just like how we did over here, we can break down 15 into 3, 5. So your prime factorization for 45 is 3 times 3 times 5. So then it comes to this and you say, well, what's the least common multiple? Well, let me get rid of the top part of this part, okay? Again, this is big when it comes to adding fractions, which I'll show you here in a second. So we've listed our prime factors of each number. Our prime factors of each number, you see them down here. Your prime factorization, I'm sorry. We know that we see a 2. We know that we see a 3. We know that we see a 5. So what is the greatest number of times you see 2 in one of the numbers? Well, it's just one time. So it's 2 times. What's the greatest number of times you see 3 in either 30 or 45? And the answer on that is you see 3 occur twice. 3 times 3. And then 5 occurs the greatest number of times is 1 on that. So your least common multiple is whatever 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 is. And when you do this, just to kind of prove my point, 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 will give you 90. 90, so let me get rid of all of this here. 90, so 90 is your least common multiple of 30 and 45. Okay, so go back to our little fraction part here. If we had 7 over 30 plus 1 over 45, well, now we know that our least common multiple for adding is going to be 90. 30 times 3 gives you 90. 7 times 3 will give you 21. You change that denominator over here, you get 90. 45 times 2 gives you 90. That means that 1 times 2 2. When you add these up, finally, when you add these two up, remember with adding, you just add on the top as long as the denominator is the same. 21 plus 2 is 23 over 90. And that, I believe, is your fully reduced answer. That's your fully reduced answer. That is least common multiple in a nutshell. If you have any questions, those of you pertaining to that specific packet, reach out to me throughout the week here. Like I said, it's not many of us are doing other things, so hope everybody's staying safe. I'm going to cut the feed here, and then create another one for the play ball packet. I'm going to cut another one for the play ball packet. Any questions? Reach out. Send me an email. Reach out via Google Classroom. We're still there. I'm here. So with that being said, take care. Talk to you guys soon.